My name is Daniel Hartman. I'm 69 years old, and I live just outside of Bozeman, Montana, in the same old farmhouse I bought with my wife Sarah over 30 years ago. She passed 5 years back, and since then, it's just been me and the quiet. That's usually fine by me, but that night, I'd agreed to dinner at my daughter's house, and I wish I hadn't. "Thanks for coming, Dad," Lily said as I stepped inside. Her house always smelled like eucalyptus and something synthetic, like a hotel lobby. "We've got lamb tonight," Trevor grilled. Trevor, her husband, was already pouring himself a glass of wine at the kitchen island. "Hope you're hungry," he said, grinning at me like I was a guest in my own family. Their kids, Mia, 12, and Oliver, 9, hugged me quick and disappeared upstairs with tablets in hand. Dinner started out polite enough. Lily did most of the talking, mostly about their upcoming ski trip, Switzerland this time, a luxury resort with its own Michelin star chef, and some kind of heated gondola. Trevor bragged about their first-class seats like he was reciting stock prices. "So, I've been meaning to say," Lily began as we cleared the plates. She didn't look at me when she said it. "About the trip. We think it's best if you don't come." I blinked. "I wasn't aware I was invited." "You weren't," she said, with a smile so tight it looked painful. "But Mia and Oliver were asking." Trevor jumped in then. "It's not a big deal, Dan. Honestly, it's just not the kind of place you'd be comfortable in. Real upscale. You know how it is." Lily nodded. "We're not trying to be mean. It's just, these trips aren't cheap. And you've said before money's tight. We didn't want to make you feel like you had to come." Trevor chuckled. "Besides, it might be a little embarrassing, with the whole rustic vibe you've got going." Mia looked up from her plate, confused. "Why can't Grandpa come?" Oliver echoed her. "Yeah, he can stay in our room. We don't care." Lily's tone sharpened. "Guys, we talked about this." I didn't argue. I just nodded quietly. "Thanks for dinner," I said after a few minutes. I should be heading home, but as I got in my truck and drove away, something in me shifted. It wasn't just hurt. It was something sharper, determined. The house was cold when I got back, the kind of chill that settles in deep when the sun goes down in Montana. I reheated a bowl of leftover stew and ate standing at the kitchen counter. There was no sound except the soft hum of the refrigerator and the old floorboards creaking under my weight. After dinner, I rinsed the bowl, wiped down the counter, and set about tidying the front room. That's when I saw it, an old cardboard file box tucked behind a stack of dog-eared seed catalogs. I hadn't touched it in years. Curiosity got the better of me. I carried it to the kitchen table and pried it open. Inside, among yellowed tax returns and some old land surveys, was a manila folder labeled in my late wife's handwriting. Hartman AgTech, Final Sale Docs. I sat down slowly. Inside were the papers I hadn't looked at in over 15 years, the acquisition agreement, stock transfer, and wire confirmation from when we sold the company. $20 million. That was the number at the bottom of the final page. I ran my fingers over it like it might vanish if I blinked. I could still hear Sarah's voice, plain as day. "Money makes people weird, Daniel. Just live quiet. See who loves you when they think you've got nothing." Back then, we made a pact. We moved into the farmhouse, kept our names off the donor boards and real estate listings, and lived like nothing had changed. Only a lawyer, a banker, and Sarah knew the full extent of it. Lily certainly didn't. And looking back now, maybe that was the point. I leaned back and stared at the faded paint on the ceiling, my own daughter, dismissing me at her dinner table like I was a burden, saying I'd embarrass them. Like I was some broken-down old man who didn't know how to use a fork in polite company. But I'd built an industry, patented soil sensors now used on farms in 27 states. I didn't come from money, but I knew how to earn it, protect it, and stay quiet long enough to see how people act when they think you're broke. I closed the folder slowly, like sealing up a part of myself that had gone still for too long. That night, something shifted in me again. This time, it wasn't hurt. It was clarity. And a plan. The next morning, I poured a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop. Lily wasn't exactly private with her life. Half her daily existence played out on Instagram. It didn't take long to piece together their itinerary. There it was. A boomerang video of Mia and Oliver trying on ski goggles. Counting down to St. Moritz, the caption read, followed by a tag to the resort, Le Château des Glaciers. I clicked through the tagged photos. Snow-covered balconies, gold fixtures in the bathrooms, a cigar lounge with leather armchairs, and a fireplace taller than I was. And then, there it was, a photo of the presidential chalet. 6 bedrooms, a private chef, a heated pool. The whole thing looked like it had been ripped from a Bond film. Next stop, the airline tag in Lily's story. I cross-referenced flight dates with the airline's first-class international routes. Zurich, January 14th. I had everything I needed. I opened my contacts and scrolled until I found the name, Gerald Knox. We hadn't spoken in years, but Gerald and I used to knock back whiskeys at every trade show between Austin and Des Moines. Now he ran a travel concierge company for high-net-worth individuals, which is a fancy way of saying rich folks too lazy to book their own luxury. I called. "Daniel Hartman," Gerald said after 2 rings. "I figured you were either dead or retired." "I'm still kicking," I said. "I need a favor." "Name it." I gave him the dates, the resort, and asked if he could get me into that presidential chalet. He whistled. "That's going to run you north of 70 grand, assuming it's still available. And a private jet," I added. "I want to land in Zurich, not crawl there." Now he laughed. "This some kind of revenge trip? Let's just say it's personal." "Got it. Leave it with me." By sunset, he texted me the confirmation. Presidential chalet, booked. Private Gulfstream jet, booked. Helicopter from Zurich to the resort, booked. Total cost, just under $115,000. I didn't blink. That night, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself like I hadn't in years. Not the farmer, not the quiet widower. The man who built something from nothing. The man who knew how to move pieces on a board and make people look twice. Sarah had warned me about wealth changing people, but right now, it was changing me back. I was folding shirts on my bed when I heard tires crunch up the gravel drive. I peeked out the window and saw Lily's SUV. It barely came to a stop before she was out and marching toward the porch. A few seconds later, she was pounding on the door like she had a warrant. I opened it slow. She didn't wait for an invite. "Are you serious right now?" I stepped aside. "Good to see you too." Her eyes landed on the suitcase by the door. "You're really doing this? You booked a trip to the same resort we're going to?" I shrugged. "Didn't know it was private property." She folded her arms. "Don't play coy." "You knew." I didn't answer. "You're going to embarrass us, Dad," she snapped. "That place isn't for people like this." She waved a hand at my living room like it was some condemned shack. She stormed over to the bag and nudged it with her foot. "Where are you staying? You can't afford Glaciers, not even the standard rooms. And don't tell me you're flying coach to Zurich. It's 12 hours. You'll fall apart halfway there." I stared at her. "I've made arrangements." "Arrangements," she repeated, laughing once like it tasted bitter. "You live in a drafty house with a 20-year-old truck, and half your wardrobe comes from that consignment shop downtown. That truck runs fine. This is insane," she said, pacing now. "Are you trying to follow us? Is this some weird way to make a point? Because it's not funny." I stayed quiet. Lily planted herself in front of me, eyes narrowed. "You're not going. You'll look out of place, and Trevor's parents are going to ask questions. They think you're, She hesitated. "Simple." "Simple? You don't belong at that kind of resort." I met her stare. "That so?" She opened her mouth to say more, then stopped. Something in my face must have shifted, because for a second, her confidence cracked. "You're bluffing," she said, stepping back. "There's no way." I picked up the suitcase and zipped it shut. "Have a nice trip, Lily." She stood frozen for a second, then turned on her heel and stormed out, muttering to herself all the way to the car. As her tires spun out down the driveway, I smiled to myself. She had no idea what was coming. The wind cut sharp across the tarmac, but I didn't feel it. A young man in a black overcoat greeted me by name and opened the door to the Gulfstream G650 like I was someone worth knowing. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Hartman," he said with a nod. Inside, the cabin smelled like leather and lemon polish. The seats were cream-colored, wide as recliners, and softer than anything I had at home. I sank into one and accepted the offered glass of champagne without a word. As the jet taxied, I looked out the window, thinking of Sarah. She would have raised her eyebrows at all this. Then again, she'd also be smirking. "About time you dusted off your spine," she would have said. I lifted the glass in her direction. "This one's for you," I murmured. Dinner came in 3 courses: herb-crusted lamb, saffron risotto, and a chocolate mousse that looked like it belonged in a magazine. I barely touched the dessert. I wasn't here to indulge. I was here to remember who I used to be, the man who built a company from nothing, who read contracts like novels and closed deals, while other men were still learning how to shake hands. I hadn't flown private before, not because I couldn't, but because I never saw the point. But now there was a point. Somewhere high above the Atlantic, I closed my eyes and let the silence settle. Not the kind of silence you get in an empty house, but the kind that comes from power, from certainty. We touched down in Zurich just after sunrise. A driver in a crisp black suit met me at the steps of the plane and walked me to the waiting helicopter. It shimmered silver in the morning light, blades humming gently, ready to lift me above the mountains. As we rose into the sky, the snowy Alps stretched out beneath us, white and endless. Somewhere down there, Lily and Trevor were likely checking into their resort, unaware of what was coming. I leaned back and smiled. Let the games begin. The helicopter touched down on a private helipad nestled above the treetops. A white-gloved driver waited beside a black SUV, holding a placard with my name, Mr. Daniel Hartman. From there, it was a smooth ride up a winding road, snowbanks gleaming in the morning sun. The resort came into view like a postcard, Le Château des Glaciers. Stone turrets, icicle-trimmed balconies, and guests in designer boots sipping mulled wine on heated patios. A concierge in a navy coat greeted me at the roundabout. "Welcome, sir. The chalet is ready. Would you like to be shown around first, or shall I have your luggage sent up?" "I'll walk." I didn't rush. I took in every gilded doorframe, every marble hallway, the way heads turned slightly as I passed. It was quiet power, the kind that doesn't need to explain itself. And then, near the fireplace lounge, I saw them, Trevor's parents, Judith and Robert Whitaker, both dressed in heavy cashmere and sipping something out of delicate glasses. I hadn't seen them since Mia's 4th birthday party. They looked up as I passed, eyes narrowing in recognition. "Daniel?" Judith blinked. "My goodness, you made it?" I smiled politely. "Didn't know I wasn't supposed to." She glanced at her husband, confused. "We were told..." "Lily said you weren't well enough to travel. That money was tight." Robert squinted at me. "You look perfectly fine to me." "I feel fine too," I said. "Maybe even better than usual." Before they could say more, I heard familiar voices at the front entrance. Laughter, a bellman pushing 2 overstuffed trunks. Lily and Trevor strolled in, sunglasses on, talking loudly, until Lily spotted me. Her smile dropped for half a second, just long enough. Then it returned, stiff and forced. "Dad," she said, striding over with arms out. "What a surprise!" She hugged me, then leaned in closer. "What the hell are you doing here?" I patted her back gently. "Just enjoying the snow?" Trevor looked like he'd swallowed a marble. How did you even get a reservation here?" "Oh," I said, turning to the concierge behind me. "I booked the presidential chalet." The concierge nodded. "Yes, sir. Your chef is already preparing your lunch." Lily's jaw twitched. I gave her the warmest smile I could manage. "This place is lovely," I said. "Thanks for the recommendation." Late one afternoon, I decided to stretch my legs. The air was crisp, the kind of cold that stung just enough to remind you were alive. I walked the upper path past the spa, through a corridor of glass-walled lounges and saunas. Most were empty, except one. I paused when I heard familiar voices inside. "I'm telling you, we need to do it now," Trevor's voice said, low but sharp. "The man's obviously senile. Look at the way he just appeared here, alone, out of nowhere." Lily sighed. "I know, but we can't just march into court and declare him incompetent without cause. It has to look natural. Like we're concerned." My jaw clenched. "Look," Trevor continued, "his assets are probably worth something. I mean, the house, whatever old investments he has. We sell the farm, move him into one of those high-end memory care places. The type with chefs and violin players, so nobody calls it a nursing home." "He'd hate that," Lily muttered. Trevor chuckled. "Exactly." I stood frozen just outside the frosted glass. I could see the outline of their figures, Lily pacing, Trevor sitting back with his legs crossed like he was discussing a business merger. "What about the kids?" Lily asked. "They'll ask questions." "We say he needs help, that it's for his safety. Maybe sprinkle in a few fake forgetful moments. They'll believe it." There was a long pause. Then Lily added, "You think he has any money hidden?" Trevor gave a dry laugh. Doubt it. He's been scraping by for years. But even 100 grand from that land is better than nothing. I backed away before I could hear more. My heartbeat was steady, but my hands were shaking. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. It was about how little they thought of me, how quickly they turned from exclusion to manipulation, from dismissal to betrayal. They wanted to take everything, my home, my dignity, my life, and wrap it up as concern. As I made my way back to the chalet, my mind was already turning. I'd given them the benefit of the doubt. Now they'd get something else entirely. Departure morning came clear and cold. A black Mercedes van rolled up to the chalet just after dawn. My driver stepped out and opened the door for me with a quiet, "Good morning, Mr. Hartman." I handed off my bag, zipped into my coat, and slid in without a word. We didn't head toward the resort's main pickup lot. We bypassed it entirely. Down a private slope, through a gated turnoff, toward the terminal reserved for executive transport. The kind of place Lily had probably never noticed, even with her nose constantly in someone else's business. But she noticed it now. The van had just pulled to a stop when I heard shouts behind us. I turned and saw Lily and Trevor hurrying down the path, Mia and Oliver trailing behind with wide eyes. "Dad!" Lily called out of breath. "Where are you going?" The door opened and I stepped out slowly. "Heading home." Mia ran over first. "Grandpa, wait, are you flying?" I crouched down beside her and smiled. "Want to see the plane?" She lit up and nodded eagerly. Oliver came running too. Lily was right behind them. "You're leaving? Already? On what? Some puddle jumper?" I tilted my head toward the runway. A sleek white Gulfstream G650 sat waiting on the tarmac, gleaming under the morning sun. The stairs were down. A uniformed crew member stood at the bottom, spotting me immediately. "Mr. Hartman," she called with a smile. "We're ready when you are." Trevor blinked. What the hell is going on? I turned to Lily. "Oh, I forgot to mention. I brought the kids a little surprise." I walked the children toward the jet, waving the crew over. They helped Mia and Oliver up the steps. The door hadn't even closed before both kids pressed their faces to the windows, mouths open in disbelief. "Is that a jet?" Mia gasped. Lily was stunned silent. The crew saluted me. "Safe travels, sir." As I boarded, I looked back. Lily stood stiff as a fence post, Trevor whispering something frantic in her ear. I gave her a small wave. "You were right," I said. "This resort wasn't for me." Then I turned, stepped into the cabin, and let the door close behind me. The engines roared to life, and I left them standing in my jet's exhaust. Lily showed up 4 days after I got back. No call, no warning, just her SUV screeching into my gravel drive like it was the start of an emergency. She stormed up the steps, face pale, eyes wild. "How long?" she asked, barely through the door. "How long have you had money?" I didn't flinch. "Since before you met Trevor." She blinked like I'd slapped her. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself coffee. "Want some?" "No," she snapped. "Dad, we thought—" Her voice cracked. "I thought you were broke." "No," I said calmly. "You assumed I was." She followed me into the kitchen, arms folded. "So, all these years, the old car, the budget groceries, the clothes, were a choice," I said. "Your mother and I agreed to live modestly. We wanted to see who stayed close when they thought we had nothing." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I motioned to the table. "Sit. Let's talk." She did. Slowly. "I overheard you and Trevor," I said, "at the spa, talking about how to sell my home, declare me mentally unfit." Lily went white. "You said I was senile, worthless, in the way." "I didn't mean—" she started. "You meant every word," I cut in. "And now you want answers because the narrative doesn't fit anymore." Tears welled in her eyes. "Dad, I was angry. We didn't know what you were doing. You embarrassed us." "No," I said. "You embarrassed yourselves." Just then, there was a knock. I opened the door to find Judith and Robert Whitaker, Trevor's parents, standing on my porch. "Daniel," Robert said, his voice tight, "we need to talk." Lily stood. "Why are you here?" Judith stepped forward. "We heard what you did, the jet, the chalet. Then we heard what you told the kids on the runway. We wanted to see if it was true." I looked at her. "It's all true. I'm worth just over 20 million. I've been careful, smart, and quiet." Judith stared at Lily. You told us he was poor. You lied. I didn't know, Lily cried. I swear I didn't. I stepped between them. You lied about more than that. You planned to take my home, my freedom. Judith's eyes narrowed. You're leaving her in the will? I shook my head. Number I've set up a trust. For Mia and Oliver. Everything goes to them. Lily and Trevor are excluded. Lily dropped to her knees. Dad, please, I messed up. I was awful. But don't cut me out of your life. I looked down at her. This isn't punishment. It's protection. For them. From you. She sobbed. Please, just give me a chance. I sighed and knelt beside her. You'll get one chance. That's it. You want back in? Earn it. She nodded through tears. And for the first time in years, I felt peace. Not revenge, not anger, just peace. Sarah would have liked that.